Well, hello. So excited to welcome you to another episode of the Reinvention Show. This is the place where we come together to share ideas and resources on how can we not just survive the uncertainty and volatility we all face today, but how can we actually thrive in it? And here it's my great honor every time to bring amazing guests who are doing just that, who are able to take something as dramatic as COVID lockdown or economic recession or technological disruption or social unrest or any other disruption coming our way and turn it into a real opportunity for growth, for prosperity, for improvement in the area of sustainability and many other areas. So I'm excited you're joining me. Let me know in the comments where you're joining me from. We always have such an international crowd. I'm happy to welcome everyone who is watching us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Let me know what city, country you are joining me from. I am still in Columbus, Ohio, United States, and I'm super excited that we always have such an international team. So Daniela is here from Frankfurt, Germany. Welcome. Beth is joining us from Washington, D.C. Super happy to see you. I am excited to see that more and more people from different parts of the world are discovering the power of reinvention as a method for not just surviving, but thriving in uncertainty. Sherry's here from Tampa, Florida. Happy to have you here. Welcome. Well, it's a very special show today, and it's special for many reasons. I don't think I get more excited than when it comes to real business stories, real before and after. You know those makeover shows when you are looking like, and then there's some makeover happens and this beautiful story emerges. That, but in business, I can hardly find something more exciting than to see an amazing case of reinvention. And this is what we have today. We have a privilege to have with me two main heroes of one Reinvention Show. So for all of you in Croatia, Slovakia, Germany, Dusseldorf, all of you who are joining us, please welcome to the studio my amazing guests, Kelly Long, founder and CEO of Noble Premium Bison, and Lila Maslechko, who is certified reinvention practitioner and also chief reinvention officer of Reinvention Canada, this amazing collective that is growing in our wonderful community of reinventors. Welcome to the show. I know we are fixing the microphone.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here this morning, Nadia, and introduce my wonderful client, Kelly Long, and her reinvention story.
I am so excited. So I'm not going to take any more time. I want to hear this all. So let us know, how did this story start? What was the starting point? What did you guys do in the middle? And what is the result so far? This is the most exciting, meat and juicy, and we're talking literally about meat. So this is as juicy as it gets. So let's get going.
Kelly, would you like to start by introducing your company, and then I can talk about our process?
Fabulous. So I'm Kelly Long. I'm the CEO of Noble Premium Bison, and what we do is we work with producers across Western Canada to get animals into the plant, produce and market bison meat across North America and across Europe. And in fact, I'm heading over to Europe next week for a big conference on food.
So,
do you want me to expand, or do you want to go ahead?
Sure, I can take the next steps there. So Kelly and I have actually known each other as entrepreneurs for close to 15 years. And it was exciting for me to be able to work with her on her company, because normally we're working on our own companies and helping each other out. But this was a focus for her. And, positioning into, Kelly is a middleman. So she doesn't directly interact in terms of working with the consumer of the bison. She's working with distributors. So, several years ago, it was simply through distribution companies. And then in the last year or so, she was able to make important inroads into grocery store chains. And so in the last year, she's developed an entire network of distribution of bison meat, fresh bison meat, and premium cuts in the grocery store chain. The reason this is important, this is Costco, this is Safeway, you name it, she owns the business in Canada. And so why this is important is when COVID hit, up till then, most bison suppliers had relied on distribution to places like restaurants. Well, we all know what happened to restaurants during COVID, is that many of them were required to shut down. And so all of a sudden, that piece of the market dried up. There was no one eating bison in restaurants and going after their favorite meat. And so Kelly was in this unique position. She didn't wait for disruption to happen. She actually had been working on this new distribution chain, new supply chain with grocery stores, and was in the position to take advantage of it. And this really leapt off when COVID hit. Her competitors were left flat-footed, and she was there because consumers were now cooking at home. And
it's so important. And I want for everyone to hear this and double highlight this idea that in the age of volatility, we have to reinvent ahead of the crisis. We need to be ahead of the curve. And this idea of diversifying, whether it's diversifying your distribution network, your supply network, or whatever else, is so, so crucial. And if I can piggyback on the question or reaction from Beth that bison is so good, can you say a few words why bison? Why not beef or anything else? Why there's another layer of the story here that has to do with the meat itself?
The nice thing about bison meat is that it's the original regenerative meat. So it's regenerative by nature. Cattle companies are starting to look towards the bison industry to look at new raising practices on how to raise for regenerative nature. The other thing about bison is it's healthier. It's healthier than most other proteins, not 100% of other proteins, but most. It's lower in fat, it's higher in iron. It's got a different fatty acid profile than beef does, so it's higher in omega-3s. And the best thing is that it doesn't take an adventurous palate to try bison. Bison is very, it's got a similar flavor profile to beef. I always compare it like turkey is to chicken, bison is to beef. It's a little bit richer and sweeter, and it's a little bit drier on the palate, but not. It's very tender, moist. All the flavor comes from the meat as opposed to fat.
Love that. And this important point of regenerative meat is so crucial because we are facing climate change and every other ecological disruptions. And it's very important for us to learn how to build businesses, communities, nonprofits that are not taking away more than they're giving. And bison meat is an example of a way of growing that is actually regenerative for the entire ecosystem, which I didn't know until I heard your story, and which I think most people don't understand. The repercussions, every time we buy, we vote. And voting with your wallet for a solution that actually regenerates the ecosystem becomes so, so important.
Bison is so cool. I mean, they're a cool animal. And, 150 years ago, they were on the open plains, probably in Ohio, Nadia, where you are, certainly in Alberta, where we live. And they roam free. And so they were pounding the ground with their hooves, which helps create a carbon bank in the soil. And so it also helps water get in and be retained rather than just run off the surface. And so as an animal, they're very cool. They also don't eat flowers. they just are selective for grasses, which are very aggressive. And so that allows other diverse flora and fauna to survive, because you've got bees coming and butterflies and everything enjoying the flowers that have had room to grow because the bison have made that room for them. So it is a very cool animal, and part of current agricultural processes, it actually destroys the land. It takes that depth of nutrients. Of course, bison are contributing to the nutrients as well as they move along. And so, we have a lot to learn from what the bison practices that are happening with the producers that Kelly works so closely with.
Love that. So this is the stage. We have this amazing product that is not yet fully present in everyone's choice of products. Whoever eats meat still most of the time don't consider it as this is my natural choice. And we have also Kelly, who is already building a diversity in her distribution. And then COVID hits and you start this reinvention process. So what happened then?
Well, we look at what Kelly was doing in her subsystems with changes to her product, providing fresh meat. In her systems, creating a new market presence with new distribution networks. And then, when COVID hit, what Kelly and I did was, we took the Reinvention Radar, which is like the 15 ways you might change your company. And when we looked at all the different ways, Kelly and I kind of discussed, this, well, 3 popped out at us. And so we decided to focus on those 3, go where the energy is, and start to evolve some ideas. And, one of the first ones was, what's happened to our consumer? What is going on in their lives that has changed? What are their needs now? How can we approach them differently? How can we help them? And so, looking at this customer, we've got a few different customers. We've got the direct one, the distribution network, the next one, which might be the chefs, and the other one, which is the home consumer. So we first took a look at the chefs, and, we saw all the restaurants were just reopening and they're having real struggles. They barely survived. I mean, if they survived at all. And we thought, well, how can we help them? And is there an opportunity to collaborate and be resource efficient to serve this market? So Kelly, the idea was that we would use a freemium model and give away free bison. And we would do that to give as a gift to the chefs, to give them a chance to create new products, get their creative juices flowing again, try a new product they may not have tried before, and also bring it to restaurants that perhaps weren't being served by Noble Premium Bison prior to this. So the idea was to work with the distributor to execute this program. And Kelly, why don't you tell what happened when you approached your distributor with this idea?
We approached the distributor and made this proposal, and they got very excited, and they carried the ball. They just ran with it. They said it was so exciting. We offered a $200 credit, and they offered to match the credit, and then they did all the footwork to get it moving. They were so excited, and we're going to repeat it again in the next month through the month of October, because it was so successful. And we got a lot of social media buzz from it with some of the best chefs in the region that we did it in. It was exciting.
So this is what I mean by resource efficient, is that, something good happens and more people talk about it. So Noble was supporting the chefs supported Noble, the chefs supported Bison, more people hear about it. It has this aura of a leading brand. Which it becomes just by the essence of people are talking about it. So it was a really key thing to sort of open up and, thinking ecosystem, collaboration, being locally attuned to what's happening, and then be resource efficient. Everybody helping everybody else.
Beautiful. So we have now at least one customer, the chef, that is looking at this product differently, trying out for free a little bit of the meat to think about new creative ways to use that raw material in their cooking. And then there is also end consumer. So what did you do with end consumer?
Well, do you want
ahead,
to talk to it?
Okay. Yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that we looked at when we were focusing on some of the end consumers is that we're not just building a brand, we're building a category. So bison is relatively unheard of in some markets. Lots of people have heard of it. Some people haven't. I don't know if the people in Germany know, but it's available in supermarkets in Germany as well, and in direct-to-consumer methods. So, but a lot of people just don't know it's there. So we started a big social media campaign with consumers to try, and some of the top chefs. So we worked with winners of Top Chef Canada. We worked with one of the judges from MasterChef Canada. Recently, we just worked with a new Top Chef Canada, the winner of Top Chef Canada 2021. We did some work with. So we're working to get the message out to home chefs, because when the pandemic was on, people were trying bison at home. And with some of the plant closures that happened with beef, we ended up having more bison available, and people were choosing more bison. It was a perfect opportunity for us.
That's a beautiful way to remember that being very proactive with reinvention and noticing trends and preparing for potential disruptions is the only way to capture the gap that always appears when the crisis hits. We see this again and again. The wonderful study that Harvard Business Review recently published, that in every crisis, about 17% of companies since the 80s have disappeared, but about 10% of companies didn't just survive, they soared. So how do you soar in crisis? You do that by preparing your whole system to be ready to grab the opportunity when it's emerged. And by the way, our German audience is super excited to hear that Noble Bison is now in Germany, while Florida is saying that this is not just building a brand, we're building a category, which I think is a very important thing. When you build a category, you become a category of one. When you are the first mover in category, you're the only one. So this is another way to think about, instead of fighting the competition, building a new category creates a different competitive advantage. So love that. So we have the chefs, we have the end consumers, we prepared in advance, and we are working heavily with new business models, including the freemium business model. Those of you who work with our book and you have your business model reinvention cards at the bottom, you can tear them out. You will see that card. Freemium means that there's an element that comes in for free first to test out, and then the main product is offered for a particular fee. And what happens next?
Well, I think the really exciting thing that happens next for Kelly is, because she has broad exposure now, she's not hidden behind a distribution network. She is communicating directly with the end consumer. She has an opportunity to be not just the CEO of Noble Premium Bison, but the voice of the bison industry. And I mean, that's magnificent, right? She's done such a great job, and she can really tap into what the consumer wants. They do care about what they eat and what they put in their bodies, and also they care about a healthy planet. And Noble checks off every box. And so the more that Kelly can speak and take her message public, the more success she will have. She's not just, one of the brands, she is the brand. And I think that's really important positioning, because Noble has the core values that count. The care that Kelly puts into, choosing the producers, choosing the type of processing, the packaging. She's meeting the needs to be able to get those contracts with retail grocery chains. She has to be on top of her game, because people are asking, and as you said, Nadia, they're making the choice. They're voting with their dollars and their stomachs, and their health and well-being is really important here. And that's an emotional connection that the brand has to the end consumer, that Kelly has positioned herself so well to take advantage of.
So I love this story, and I'm getting kind of hungry for some. I've never.
You should see the recipe she's got online. Oh my goodness, they're just mouth-watering.
But imagine the story for many of you who think that you are somewhere in the middle of supply chain. You are somewhere in between upstream and downstream, and you're not touching the end consumer. This is a story for you. Today, this is more about thinking the whole ecosystem. Who is the entire ecosystem, rather than looking at your own kind of little tunnel vision of who is my direct supplier and who is my direct customer. Because very often the greatest risk, but also the greatest opportunity, is not in the direct supplier. In Kelly's case, I assume this is the producer of meat, and not the direct customer. In Kelly's case, is the distributor. The real risk and the real opportunity is actually far away. It's the end consumers, it's the chefs, it's the actual farmers, and so on. So how do we stop thinking super narrow and open our eyes and start using the ecosystem point of view? I hope you guys are beginning to ask yourself that question, those of you who are listening. And I know many of you are wondering where you can find some of these resources and tools that Kelly and Linda are talking about, including the radar, including the business model cards. You can download the free preview of the Chief Reinvention Handbook and see some of the resources that are there. Now, the interesting question that I have now, other than is my Costco offering bison today so I can try it out? This interesting question is to come back to this idea that reinvention is not a project. It's not a thing you do once. COVID hit, we readjusted, we reinvented, we move on. No, reinvention is a process, it's a mindset, is a way of living. It's a particular strategic choice, which means that we have to reinvent on a regular basis. I often say that it's like taking a shower. If I don't take a shower on a regular basis, I begin to stink. So if our products, our processes, our business models, our companies don't take a shower on a regular basis and reinvent, they also begin to stink. Which leads to the question, what's next for you? As you are thinking about the next wave of reinvention and the next one and the next one, what do you see in the future now that you use this crisis as an opportunity to have direct channels with end consumers and with the chefs? Where do you see it's going next?
Well, we've got a couple of projects on the go. We're looking at building our own plant and becoming the primary source, because the industry is small. The bison industry is very small, and you have to work with contractors. So we're working on building our own plant. That will be happening in the near future. And then continuing to stretch out to other markets. And we get a lot of attention now that we have been doing. If you look at our website, we're educating. So it's further educating to get more people knowledgeable about bison meat and how to cook it and what the advantages of it are. So I look back at the first project that Linda and I did together when we were on a retreat together, was how many reinventions that we did and I wish my papers across the desk, I have all these S curves, and it's a paper this big of what we did and how we did it. And we had been doing it all along until Linda introduced me to Reinvention. And of course, the first thing I did is went out and bought the book. So we continually think about it. We continually evaluate what the next opportunities are and where we need to go next. But we need to be there first. So how do we do that? And what is it next? And it's consistent, it's constant collaboration.
Love that. Which leads us to a kind of imparting wisdom on the next generation. You started working with reinvention in the last few years, but you've been reinventing your whole life, both of you, knowing both of your stories. You've been both in the history of reinventing your companies, reinventing yourself, reinventing your regions, your industries. The question I have for you, for those who are just starting out, who probably never heard this word reinvention, and like, what in the heck are they talking about? What even constitutes reinvention, and where do I start? What would be your piece of advice? Where do you start? How do you start thinking about reinvention as the competitive advantage strategy for the volatile world? Where do you start?
You know, one of the things that has made a difference to me as an entrepreneur, you know, small businesses need to reinvent all the time. And, you know, COVID isn't the first disruption to hit. You know, Kelly and I have been in business for many, many years as entrepreneurs and had to face many, many difficult challenges. And so I think one of the things that has been key to me all along, and it's how I met Kelly, is creating a tribe and having people around you that you can collaborate with. That, you know, sometimes if you're in your silo, you can't see what's around you. And it takes that moment to just step back at 10,000 feet and be able to survey everything and not be just stuck in this firefighting moment of what's happening to me now, and, you know, and fear and everything else. So having that tribe to lean into is something that is so key. Kelly, what do you think? How about that?
Exactly. So, you know, we've been through, in my reiteration stories, my tribe, Linda included, I think they say I'm on Kelly 5.8 or 10.0. It's a continual reinvention, and the people that you surround yourself, they always need to be reinventing. So we've, you know, in our company, we bring people around us, and then, you know, and outside of the company, it's always constant learning. And surround yourself with people that want to keep moving forward, that want to keep saying, what's next? What's the next goal? And always have a goal or a bright star to keep working towards. And if you meet it, be prepared. What's the next one? What's the next one? It's constant reinvention, trying to think ahead.
I love that. I love both of those points. Is making sure that we build a tribe, a community, and that we change our mindset, that it's not about check mark, I'm done, I can sit down now. It's more of, how do I build a system in which this is just a habit, it's a part of my natural life, and this is absolutely beautiful. And of course, I'm honored to have you as a part of our global reinvention movement, the Stellar Reinvention Club, and the overall community that is leading the way, because currently there's so much hopelessness in some areas. Some industries, some countries are facing this idea that this is it, there's nothing else to be done. And we have to figure out a way for us to share the best practices and give each other a little bit of a glimpse of what's possible. So here's some feedback from Germany. Daniela works in the banking industry, and she says, great story and wish you a lot of success. It's an interesting thing that you can borrow ideas from very different industries. And Beth said that this is inspiring her to reach out to her nonprofit communities and ask them what they learned in the last 18 months, because your retrospective and your learning are also giving some inspiration for others. So love the story. If you can summarize the so what is the result that you achieved through reinvention so far? That will be the final exclamation point at the end of the story. What do you think is the final so what at this point, knowing that there will be many more reinventions to come? At this point, you've gone through this reinvention in the middle of COVID. So what? What have you achieved? What's the final result and exclamation point?
So we've leveraged consumer exposure, we've educated, we're a national, we're across Canada in retail. We have some great partners in Europe. So what do we do next? How do we move forward? What do we create new products? How do we educate the consumers even further? Create new new exposure for our product, and not become such a niche, or expand how many niches that we're in.
Love that. And Linda, what's your so what? Now, at this point in the story, what are you taking away?
You know, I remember what it felt like for Kelly and I to start this reinvention process. And it was just, wow. And, you know, to find those little bits, those incremental changes, the radical changes, you know, I think Kelly's in a position to really take advantage of those now. And, you know, she and I were speaking about how we think there are infinite new things that can happen. And, you know, we're excited to continue working together to ensure that those happen for her company. So, you know, as a business coach, it just fills my heart, because I'm also an entrepreneur, and I want to see her success happen, continue to happen. So that's what's next. You know, we'll dream up something, and there's a David Bowie quote that says, "I don't know what comes next, but I guarantee it won't be boring."
Love that. Love that. Well, you are not just inspiration to me, you're inspiration to entire community. And we will continue to share this episode with our community across all of our platforms, because everyone deserves to know much more about the beauty of regenerative meat, which is bison meat, the amazing learnings of how you can prepare for unpreparable, uncertain, volatile world, and you can use the opportunity to go outside of your comfort zone wherever you are and start working with people who you traditionally maybe have not worked, and achieve huge results. So big warm congratulations. Thank you so much for coming on the show to share your story. And of course, we will share a little bit of resources after the episode finishes, so that everyone can find both Kelly and Linda and connect further. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to everyone joining us for this episode, make sure you download the 85-page preview of Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook and start playing around with some of the tools that Kelly and Linda were mentioning. Thank you so, so much for joining.